Parshas Tetzaveh, Parshas Zachor. Gentlemen, so nice to see you again. All right. How many people here, just by like a show of hands, are familiar with the civilization called the Harappans? Okay, how about the Akkadians? How about the Chico Norte? Yeah, go ahead. Who are they? Yeah, you're full of it. Okay. How about the Pella Gang? Okay, so gentlemen, okay, one second. I'm going to try to make this a little easier. How many of you have heard of Amalek? Oh, okay. Very interesting thing happening in the Torah this week, right? Really interesting. Make sure, what do we got to do? We have to wipe out the memory of Amalek. Now, I just mentioned a bunch of nations to you that existed, according to historical archaeologists, around those days. You never heard of any of them. How come you heard of Amalek when if you didn't hear of the Pella Gang or the Harappans or the Chico Norte? How come Pelicans? Whoa. Good one. Okay. So how come you never heard of them, but you heard of Amalek? How come you heard of Amalek? The Torah told you about them. So if I'm trying to get you to forget something, and the only reason you even remember it is because I've told you about it, doesn't that seem a little backwards? Like we're all going to forget about them anyway, so what's the big deal? No, don't forget. What do you got? Never, lo tishkach. Don't forget. Don't forget what? Don't forget to forget about them. To wipe out their name. It sounds a little bit difficult to make sense of. So there's a lot of ideas that have been said about this. I'm going to just share a medrash and some words about this, see if we could make a connection. Pasuk tells us that when Yisro came and he comes to the Jewish people, right, and he heard all about what happened. One of the things it says he heard about Amalek, he heard about the war with Amalek. And it's the pasuk in Mishlei, and Chazal say this pasuk in Mishlei applies to Yisro and to Moshe and to Amalek. What's the pasuk? Late take, a late you have to hit. Upesi, and a fool yarin. The pesi the fool will become wise. Hit. The let's, we haven't defined the terms yet. The fool will become wise, v'hochiach, and make clear or rebuke linavon, a person who understands. So it's like giving you different types of rules about dealing with misbehavior. A let's has to be hit. You can't reason with him. A navon, you could be mochiach, you could make things clear to him, you could rebuke him, you could explain things to him. The fool, what do you do with the fool?
Whack.
The fool sees that you whack the lates, and he becomes wise. So who is this talking about, says the Medrash? The Medrash says as follows. Well, a lates, in the popular, in the way we would describe a lates today, would be a cynical person. Rav Hutner describes lates as a person, says himself Sharm that one bit of leitzanos, of cynicism, it's this type of humor, but it's a type of humor that's designed to tear down something which is important. And so one bit of leitzanos could push off 100 rebukes. So you don't rebuke a lates. You just have to give him clap. You have to give him a clap. You just have to hit him. Why? So he explains that if we have shared values, then I can speak to you about these values and about this common ground that exists between us to show why the behavior that you're engaging in is going to bring you to a bad end, and it's just not worth it. So there's a process called tochacha. Tochacha is rebuke, but it means to make clear. It doesn't mean that it has to be done painfully. It doesn't mean it has to be done in a harsh or critical way. But I have to be able to show the person that the behavior they're engaging in, it's not going to bring about the result that you want. So if we have kind of either a shared value or a shared goal or a shared picture, it's possible for one person to illuminate the path that another person is on, and he'll see, oh boy, I don't want to go to this end. A fool, you can't explain much to him. But when he sees what happened to the lates, he's like, oh boy, okay, I'm going to beware. I'm going to be careful. Amalek is called the lates. Amalek is the nation that when the Jews were taken out miraculously from Mitzrayim, they said, I can't live. Even Amalek is willing to give up their life for something. Even they are willing to give up their life for something. You know what they're willing to give up their life for? If I would find a certain situation unbearable, I'd be willing to give up my life for that situation. In other words, rather than this situation happen, I'll give up my life. That's what a person gives up his life for. Whether it'll be that he's willing to risk his life for his children because he can't imagine existence without them. He'd rather not even have a life than that. Or whether he's going to or if he's willing to give up his life for his cause, because he says the cause is larger than I am. What is Amalek willing to give up his life for? They came to start up with the Jewish people knowing they were going to get hurt. What are they willing to give up their life for? They can't stand that life has a purpose and a meaning and accountability. And if that's what life has, I'd rather not be alive. I'm willing to get killed to create life in which there doesn't have to be meaning, direction, and accountability. It's too much. I don't care about higher causes. My only higher cause is that there should never be a higher cause that is determining for me how I have to live. And this is Amalek. It says in the pasuk, Asher korcha baderech, they happened across you on the way. Rashi says, derech mikra, as if it all happened. It wasn't because creation has a purpose and a goal and a direction and a reality. It's because, no, you just got to live enjoy your life and have your life the way you want it to be, and don't let anything get in the way of that. And if it does, you have to wipe it out. Late taka, there's no reasoning with people who cannot find that common ground of a cause for creation and for life and for values. Upesi, the fool, this was Yisro. Yisro was serving every avodah zarah in the world. But when he saw what happens to Amalek and he hears what the story is with Amalek, he says, okay, I have to be wiser. This isn't going to work. He became wise enough to give advice to Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu was the ultimate Navo. Nobody was understood better than Moshe Rabbeinu. And he says to Moshe, you know that the path you're on, that you are taking care, this is all in Yisro, right? The path that you're on, that you are sitting and judging Klal Yisrael an entire day all by yourself. It's too much for you and it's too much for them and everybody is suffering. Right? We're going to have to create a system in which you're going to be able to do what you do sustainably. And Moshe Rabbeinu, he says, don't listen to me, listen to Hashem, he says. When Moshe Rabbeinu asks Hashem, Hashem says, right. Yisro is right. We add a parasha into the Torah because of Yisro. Lates Taka. The lates, we have to hit. This week we're reading Parshas Zachor. We read it every single year. We're reading this 3,000 years. We're keeping them alive. No. The way to what they have put into the world is still here. We're not keeping them alive. Maybe the name Amalek we wouldn't have known, but the lifestyle and culture of Amalek we know very well. We fight with it ourselves every single day when we try to do what's right instead of what's comfortable. When we try to do what's right and we try to recognize something bigger than us instead of being stuck in the smallness and tininess of ourselves. And recognizing that our greatness is only in as much as we're able to be part of an actual world of greatness with a real direction and a real derech to go. And so this Timche Zecher Amalek, don't forget, is that this part of humanity, which would destroy purpose and make life nothing more than a search for my comfort, and make sure there's no higher accountability, we can never forget. Every day we say the Sheish Zechiros at the end of at the end of davening, if you have it in your siddur, if you say it or if you don't say it, we're supposed to say it every day, and we're supposed to remember Matan Torah, and we're supposed to remember how terrible Lashon Hara is, and we're supposed to remember Amalek every single day, because we have to fight that battle every single day. It's not about the name. The name we could remember. But the culture and the lifestyle that would shrink us and take us away from Hashem is something that we could never forget to eradicate. Gentlemen, so wonderful to see you. Have a great Shabbos.